Today, Nolly Elementary would like to recognize all of our October Leaders of the Month. We are so proud of these students for their outstanding leadership in the classroom, on the playground, in the lunchroom, and always displaying the 7 habits here at Nolly School. Today, I will recognize each student in each grade and tell you a little something about them. Okay, starting off with kindergarten, we have Mrs. Craig's class, Casey Mydock, who is proactive, thinks win-win, puts first things first, and synergizes. Mrs. Craig said Casey has shown much bravery while settling into kindergarten. She began quite uncertain, but quickly gathered confidence. She is a team player by her willingness to help Mrs. Craig and her peers every day. Mrs. Craig said, I am so proud of her and appreciate her positive mindset. Keep reaching for the stars, Casey. One person does make a difference. Way to go. In Mrs. Parton's room, we have Alaska Looney, who is proactive. Alaska continues to make Mrs. Parton proud with her organization skills and her drive to do her best. She also has a thoughtful heart and helps others to stay organized. Mrs. Parton said we are blessed to have her uplifting spirit. In Mrs. Rankin's room, we have Maddox Muster, who begins with the end in mind. Maddox is a shining star in kindergarten. He is a great example to his peers. He keeps focus, listens attentively, and gives his best. Mrs. Rankin is so proud of you. And in kindergarten, Mrs. Zukowski's class, we have Addison Knox, who is proactive. Addison is a kind, hardworking member of the kindergarten class. Addison can be seen following directions the first time they are given and being a role model for her peers. Keep being a leader, Addison. Okay, moving on to first grade. In Mrs. Fiesler's room, we have Hazel Young. Hazel puts first things first. Mrs. Fiesler said Hazel was absent for a week and she completed her work right away so she could catch up on her learning. Mrs. Fiesler said, I am so proud of her for always using polite manners too. In Mrs. Rector's room, we have Ryan Tomeko, who is proactive and puts first things first. Ryan is a leader in the first grade classroom. She comes to school each day ready to learn and to do her best. Keep it up, Ryan.
In Miss Beard's class, we have Alex Noble, also Alexandra. She puts first things first. Alexandra is such a hard worker and is always doing her best work. She is always kind to all and has the best attitude. Keep it up, Alexandra. In Miss Bowser's class, we have Damian Lunsford. He begins with the end in mind. Damian is a very hard worker and outstanding leader in our classroom this year. He sets his own goals for himself and works hard to achieve them. Way to go, Damian.
All right, now for our second grade. In Mrs. Van Dorsten's class, we have Carly Pless, who puts first things first. Mrs. Van Dorsten said Carly is always putting first things first by paying attention in class and getting her work done. Way to go, Carly. In Mrs. Grandin's room, we have Kenzie Voros, who puts first things first. Mrs. Grandin said, Kenzie had a lot on her plate this past month. She really worked hard, put first things first, and got everything done with a big smile and a positive attitude.
In Miss Limack's class, we have Avery Walmer. She thinks win-win. Avery is a very joy to have in class. She always has a can-do attitude and also encourages her peers to always try their best. Miss Limack says thank you for being a positive role model for all. In Miss Truax's class, we have Madeline Dvorak. She is proactive. Madeline is organized and helps others, encourage others, and has a great attitude every day in second grade. She is a true leader in our class. Keep it up, Madeline.
Okay, now for our third grade leaders. Our first student is being nominated by Mrs. Millville, and that is Hunter Rulin, who puts first things first. Mrs. Millville said Hunter demonstrates putting first things first by making sure she does her iReady reading homework weekly. She often does more than required for bonus points. Her reading is improving because of her efforts. Great job, Hunter. In Mr. Straub's class, we have Riker Vinson, who thinks win-win and he synergizes. Riker is such a kind and caring individual. Mr. Straub said, I've never seen him not help a friend or a teacher or a teammate in need. One day at bus time, I saw him help 3 people at once. The buses were a bit of a jumble, and many students had to ride a different bus home. There were some younger students that were a bit afraid of not getting on their regular bus. Riker saw that they were upset about it, and he got out of his bus line to help them. He had the students calm down and sat with them until it was time to get on the bus. What a great act of friendship and helping others, something that we can all learn from. Thank you, Riker. In Mrs. Stasnis' class, we have Anna Wayman, who puts first things first. Mrs. Stasnis said, Anna is such a great example for our class. She comes into class every day prepared and gets right to work. This gives her a chance to be Mrs. Stasnis' right-hand girl. She helps her with so much, and it's very much appreciated. Way to stay focused, Anna.
In Miss Braley's class, we have Braxton Yaros. He is proactive. Braxton is new to Nolly and already a leader in 3rd grade. He is always striving to do his best, proactively completes his work, and has a positive attitude towards learning. Often he lends a helping hand to friends and teachers too. Miss Braley says, Braxton, you are off to a great start in 3rd grade. In Miss Esterly's class, we have Corey Cash. Corey puts first things first. Corey continuously sets a high standard in our class by putting first things first. She is able to prioritize what needs to be done without being told. Her effective management skills will take her far in education and life. Miss Esterly says, great job, Corey. Way to be a leader.
And finally, our 4th grade leaders. Our first student was nominated by Mrs. Millville, and that is Mason Calvert, who puts first things first. Mason demonstrates putting first things first by making sure he does his reading homework and he does it on time. Mason is very conscientious, and this trait will take him far in life. Keep it up, Mason. In Mrs. Matson's room, we have Grayson Porco, who puts first things first. Grayson is a good example of what a leader is. He was absent several days and made sure to get his work and complete it in a timely manner. He works hard in class and does what is expected of him. Keep it up, Grayson.
In Miss Oak's class, we have Aubrey Ryrick, who is proactive. Aubrey is self-motivated in all things, but especially with her leadership role in the cafeteria. She never needs reminders and helps Mr. Daly with gusto. Way to go, Aubrey. In Miss Toe's class, we have Raylan Glass, who seeks first to understand. Raylan has been such a great helper for her classmates when they need her help. She always seeks first to understand. In Miss Gardner's class, we have Levi Johnson, who puts first things first. Levi is a responsible leader in our classroom. He comes to school every day with a positive attitude and a smile on his face. Keep up the good work, Levi.
And I'd like to thank our speaker leader, Paisley Fanning, who is here helping us with our leadership video today. Congratulations to all of the Nolly Leaders of the Month. The entire staff here at Nolly is so proud of you. Please keep up the great work and your outstanding leadership. Way to go!